So, a few words on the Thames Estuary for those of you that, I'm guessing most of you know, but just to make sure we're all absolutely on the same page. I want you all to imagine that you're standing on the top of St Paul's Cathedral. It's hairy up there, but someone's got to do it. And you're looking east. The estuary goes out as far as Southend on the Essex coast and down to Ramsgate on the Kent coast. So think about that beautiful, extraordinary expanse of land, of water, of opportunity. It's a land that inspired Turner, Canaletto, Dickens, and the late Wilko Johnson. God rest his dear soul. Only a few of you in the audience will know that reference, but for those of you that do, Canvey Island's a great place. So, what do we have to do? We're the government's newest and greatest, I would say that when I am the chair, growth opportunity in the UK. We've got 1,000 square miles and 4 million people. And what do we need to deliver for government in that place? Easy. 1.3 million jobs, 1 million homes, and 190 billion GVA into the UK economy. So if you could sort that by lunchtime, I'd be super, super grateful. But what that does mean is that our growth agenda is very, very dynamic. As a growth board, we have a character. Those of you that know us already know that we're a growth board that gets shit done. And I mean that most sincerely. We get stuff done. That doesn't mean we are not data-driven. That does not mean that we don't look at evidence. That does not mean that we don't think carefully about what we do. But the key thing here, and I've just come yesterday from being at Enlit in Frankfurt, the big European Sustainable Energy Conference. It was terrifying being there. The speed at which we need to move to solve the chase to net zero is much worse than anyone in this room thinks. It needs to be much quicker than anyone in this room thinks. There was a wonderful woman there from Microsoft, one of the VPs in Microsoft responsible for the energy transition. And you know what she said? And it was a real game changer for me. She said, we need to fail quicker. Fail quicker. Because we're going to fail on this journey. And we need to fail quicker so we learn quicker, so that we can move quicker. And that might be a theme I might return to during the day today, or during this first panel that I'm chairing. How do we fail quicker and learn? So, we're all about good green growth, and obviously, come on Kate, wake up. Obviously, at the core, Jesus, of good green growth is hydrogen, right? We're a private sector-led board, an unashamedly private sector-led focus. Therefore, we don't commission thought leadership, we commission investment strategies. We have commissioned a hydrogen investment strategy. A number of you will have seen the hydrogen ecosystem which we've published. And what it told us is that the Thames Estuary is one of the best places in the world to adopt this technology. In the world. The use of hydrogen in the estuary is predominantly in relation to transport, and we'll be looking at that. I know, did some of you catch the hydrogen bus this morning? Yeah, that was good, wasn't it? But lots of uses for hydrogen, not just on land, but we are, for example, doing a lot of modal shift, taking trucks off the road. Do you know there's 17 million parcels going to London every year in vans that are mucking up your air? If we can lift those off vans and put it on the water, isn't that great? But there's no point taking it off a dirty van and putting it on a dirty vessel. So we need to get hydrogen on the water as well. So lots and lots of opportunities, some great end users. We've got the Freeport and we've got Lower Thames Crossing as well being built, which is committed to being powered by hydrogen. So that's exciting in itself. But think of the fueling legacy they'll leave. Yeah, so there's some really, really good stuff. And I think as well, we're keen to, you know, we talked about that, or I mentioned that thing about we need to fail quicker so we learn quicker so we can move quicker. That also means that we need to collaborate, not just within this room, not just within the estuary, but interregionally as well. We're doing a huge amount of work with the Mayor in Teesside. I've worked with Teesside for a number of years. They're doing some great stuff with hydrogen, predominantly around the decarbonisation of industry, so a slightly different application from us, but lots of mutual learning. We've opened up conversations with Hamburg, with the Mexican ambassador, with colleagues in South Africa, with Stockholm, and with others. And in May of next year, we are going to be launching the Great Estuaries of the World network. Why estuaries? Well, think about it. There's something very special that those cities that have rivers can do. And a lot of it's in relation to power generation. And we're going to be launching the development of an international white paper on the growth opportunities that estuary cities of the world will bring including their use of hydrogen. So watch this space for that. That launch will be next May. And finally, and really importantly, we have launched the Living Lab concept. This is really, really important to us. This is an opportunity for us to bring together learning, research, development, startups, innovation, and investors. That missing link that's so often there in that makeup of organisations that are helping new businesses to get going. We've got the investor community standing alongside us, ready to come in. And I'm delighted that we're working with CEME on the development of the first Living Lab. This will be the first of a major global network of innovation around hydrogen, its different applications, and its link to the investor community. So for that reason, I could not be more proud and pleased to be here this morning. It's brilliant to see all your new faces. Hey, let's change the world before lunchtime. Thanks, guys.
So I'm going to do something that rarely happens in a conference today. I'm going to tell you some secrets. Because everything I'm about to show you has not been seen by anyone outside the back halls of government and Nuzzaman. So I hope you all have your phones ready, because there's a prize for the first person to put it up on LinkedIn in a very millennial way, and I'm looking at the two Lukes here. So I'm also going to do something that is probably very unwise, and that is I'm going to use you guys as guinea pigs, because this is a genuine call for your input into how we make Living Labs a success in the Thames Estuary, and how we engage with CEME as the first of those hydrogen living labs over the next 6 to 12 months to transform this space and this site and this area into a global leader in hydrogen innovation. So this is not the end of the discussion, this is the beginning. And I want to start by giving you some context as to what we're doing in the Thames Estuary with the Thames Estuary Growth Board around the hydrogen ecosystem. Ikigai is a net zero bankability consultant. What does that mean? Well, it means I spend my days talking to investors about the fact that they only have until 2030 to stop talking about a net zero strategy and start delivering on the ground. So let that sink in. That's one investment cycle for most people in this room. One investment cycle to change the world. So when we got involved with the Thames Estuary Growth Board last year in creating a hydrogen ecosystem, we knew we had to move quickly, and we knew we had to do things differently from how they are normally done in this country. We had to attract private sector investment into the hydrogen ecosystem, which we were basically trying to create from scratch. So we started by trying to understand the scale of the potential hydrogen opportunity in this area, and to create a route map to capital investment, which meant understanding the sources and uses of hydrogen within the estuary, matching supply and demand, and also looking how we map that against broader issues around affordability of energy, inclusivity, systems thinking, and sustainable use of resources. We are now in a phase where we're developing a pipeline of investable projects with industry, with private sector investors, and seeking to attract a global audience of investors into those projects. Hydrogen is like champagne. Why? Because, yeah, you could have champagne for breakfast. You could even bathe in it if you really want to. It's a very flexible commodity, but it's very expensive. And it will remain expensive for the foreseeable future. So we need to look at the best applications of hydrogen and use it sparingly in the right contexts. So the work we did looked at technology readiness, competitiveness, and capacity of the supply chain, competition from counterfactuals, where the policy support was, how flexible it is as a commodity. And what we discovered is actually the best applications of hydrogen are in heavy goods vehicles, maritime, particularly inland vessels that are used on a high rotation, and also local authority vehicles in terms of refuse collection. And when we look at the estuary, lo and behold, we're a transport-led, a distribution logistics-led area. We have 4 ports, we have 2 airports, we have 30 major construction projects. We have more distribution and logistics than anywhere else in the country. And in this area, everything that you can see, which is part of the Freeport, and we're going to talk about that today, we have thousands of truck movements every day in and out of ports along our highways. And hydrogen is a potential decarbonisation solution for everything above around 7 tonnes of transport. So we have this unique opportunity, not just in high temperature industrial use, not just as in potentially some residential uses, but most importantly in transport and logistics. And we took these key sectoral applications and we broke the estuary down into a number of demand-led clusters. And you can see on the screen there, one of the most important, CEME, is at the centre of. What we're trying to do with those demand-led clusters is attract investment by matching the first areas of demand with potential sources of local supply, just as Luke was talking about earlier. And our aim is to catalyse by 2027 all of this infrastructure, all of this economic development that you can see on the screen right now, across the whole hydrogen ecosystem. So supply, storage, distribution, application at the end use, and potentially import of hydrogen, because in all likelihood, the estuary may be a net importer of hydrogen, not only from other parts of the UK, but from other parts of the world. Why? Because we need to, by 2035, scale up. Everybody's talked about it today. We've got to aggregate demand and we've got to scale up and we've got to bring in the supply chain to this area and to the UK. And so this is what we hope the Thames estuary is going to look like from a hydrogen perspective by 2035. What that means is we have a number of workstream priorities that we are focusing on. You can see on the screen there that 2 of the key ones from a sectoral perspective are maritime and haulage, which is why we're going to talk about CEME being at the epicentre of road and river transport as far as hydrogen is concerned. And we're also looking at a number of overarching themes which focus on technology commercialisation, manufacturing and skills, and national and international collaboration, which CEME is going to be critical to delivering. One of the central tenets of what the Thames Estuary Growth Board is trying to do is only intervene where nobody else can, where it is the best actor to deliver the maximum benefit. And so what the Thames Estuary Growth Board is trying to do is deliver on 3 key pillars: carbon savings, capital investment, and jobs. And from a carbon savings perspective, we're going to talk a little bit today about how the Thames Freeport surrounding us can support in aggregation of demand to catalyse those carbon savings. We're going to talk about how investors are supporting to guide us on what a bankable hydrogen project looks like, and so we can deliver a pipeline of opportunities. And most importantly, we're going to talk about how we can deliver jobs through high-value manufacturing, first commercialisation of tech, training and retraining of local people for the hydrogen economy. So here's the secret bit. What is a living lab? Well, it means a lot of things to a lot of different people. What we mean by a regional hydrogen living lab is the Thames Estuary Growth Board acting as a regional catapult, a sponsor, if you will, of a number of living labs across the region, focusing on TRL 3 to 7 technologies. So that's pre-commercialisation, pre-scale-up, and I'll explain in a minute why that's such an important segment for us to focus on. Providing not just office space. We are not going to become the leaders in the hydrogen economy globally by offering people office space. What they need is shared industrial lab quality testing, accreditation, prototyping facilities, technology sandpits with industry where they are testing in a safe environment whether or not the application works, and micro-manufacturing. We must be a leader in manufacturing if we are going to create jobs. We want these to be distributed across the estuary. So we're not concentrating all the economic benefit in one place, we're spreading it out right across the estuary. So CEME is the first, but it's going to be the first of, we hope, 5. It needs to be adjacent to commercial demonstrator sites, so that's why we're here. When you look out here, you see one of the largest distribution and logistics clusters in the country, with Stobart, with Tesco, with Ford on our doorstep. And that's where we can see actually the commercial delivery of these ideas. And most importantly, we need to think about what are the best themes for different areas. And so we're talking about road and river transport here for obvious reasons, but we will also be talking about hydrogen aviation, hydrogen international shipping, and a number of other themes. And our aim is levelling up. And Ian and I are going to talk about that in a minute and how this delivers on levelling up, to create a region of excellence that attracts not only capital investment into great British technologies, but also attracts international entrepreneurs to this area, to make this the best place in the world to start up and grow a business and to manufacture and first commercialise the technologies. We want to collaborate and complement what is going on in the rest of the country, not to cannibalise that, not to compete. And we want this to be a predominantly private sector funded, self-sustaining and franchised brand. It can be a national brand that we can work with other regions to deliver across the country. It is not a given that you will deliver jobs and skills and growth, that you will level up an area just because you talk about innovation. We know from the work of the Connected Places Catapult that it is derived from strengths in a number of different areas. And that includes business innovation strength and skills and spillover strength. And what that means is physical places where we're bringing skills and capital together. And so that's why in the Living Lab, what we're trying to do is be the first point of call on a conveyor belt to a region of excellence. So we start here with testing and prototyping and micro-manufacturing. We move on to first local demonstration. We then move into advanced large-scale manufacturing, and that's how we deliver skills and jobs, and we deliver new curriculums in our universities to support that. We don't do that very well as a country compared to other parts of the world. We don't hold innovators' hands through that journey so they stay here rather than taking the growth stage of their businesses overseas. And so I am incredibly passionate about the idea that we need to focus more as a country on TRL 3 to 7. We have brilliant universities and early stage incubators that are coming up with ideas. We are amazing as a country at buying back someone else's tech once it's been commercialised and manufactured overseas. We did that with the offshore wind industry. I do not want that to happen in hydrogen, and the Thames Estuary Growth Board is trying to address the failures of the past that we've talked about this morning by doing things differently, by focusing on that stage, the valley of death. So when we thought about what does a successful living lab for hydrogen look like, we didn't just get a blank sheet of paper out and copy what was done 10 years ago. We asked the innovators, what do you want? And so over the next 6 months, we want to work with CEME to try and deliver as much of that as possible. So they want support on IP protection and how to accredit their technologies. They want to help to find demo sites and manufacturing sites around the country. But they also want a space where they can test hydrogen and hydrogenated space. Now that may mean it's a coma site, but it may also just mean that you've got reinforced buildings that enable you to test hydrogen without things contaminating the rest of the area or causing an issue if there was an explosion. Because the reality is that's what it looks like to develop technology. You make mistakes, things go wrong. You need to be in a safe space to do that. That you need a highly skilled workforce that is where you have a magnet to pull them in, and you need an interaction with industry. But you don't want that to come with strings that make your business unviable. You don't want it to be in exchange for a huge amount of equity in your company. You don't want all the upfront expenditure of having to buy equipment yourselves. You want to be able to share that with others who also need that equipment. And that creates a legacy for the country. And you don't want an obligation to commit your technology to a certain market. You know, you must develop for this part of the UK market. You want a global marketplace to develop for. Or an obligation to work with a specific university or a specific technical college. You want to open your mind to where you can collaborate with international universities, with commerce, with industry. And it has to be part of a broader support system. So that's why the work that we're doing is not just about Living Labs. It's also about delivering on an investment route map for commercial scale projects, engaging with government on policy recommendations, engaging with local authorities on coordinated procurement. All of these things are critical. You can't do it in isolation. So to come up with these solutions, we engaged with a lot of different stakeholders. Some of them are in the room today. University of Kent and UCL, we're incredibly grateful for their insights. And most importantly, the Manufacturing Technology Centre, which is part of the High Value Manufacturing Catapult, who is our partner in the delivery of these Living Labs, because we need to understand how we transition from prototyping and testing into successful manufacturing and growth. And as Kate mentioned earlier, we are trying to develop synergies with other parts of the country. Why? Because they're different when it comes to hydrogen. Teesside, as an example, is all about high temperature heat manufacturing, or importation of hydrogen, or the manufacture of ammonia. That's not what we're going to be doing in the estuary. We're going to be focusing on different types of demand around transport and logistics. So we can work together to deliver a national strategy on hydrogen. The first theme is going to be road and river transport for a lot of reasons that we've talked about today that I'm not going to talk about again. Maybe we can go into it on the panel. But it's clear that this is probably the most iconic place in the whole country when it comes to river transport on the Thames. And we've talked about why HGVs have such an important role in the hydrogen economy. So I can't think of a better place to have the first hydrogen living lab than at CEME. Why? Because it has local demand. It has on-site infrastructure that we've heard today is going to be repurposed over time to be able to handle buses and HGVs. It has fantastic connectivity to the City of London and where the capital lies. And most importantly, has low execution risk. Do not underestimate how important it is for the success of an innovation park to already have a community sitting behind it, to already have some momentum. Because what we can't do is have a white elephant that we're still trying to find a raison d'etre for in 3 years' time. So I am incredibly excited by what CEME represents on this journey that we have to take together. And I look forward to discussing with my panelists how we actually manage to attract investment, not only into the infrastructure required here, the real estate, if you like, the equipment that we can share, but also into the companies that will be locating here so we can create the unicorns, the national champions of the future, and become the epicenter for hydrogen globally.